Hi there, in this short video I'm going to introduce a visualization I did for my current companies, which is a visualization about electrical grid system and I did it in React and D3. So this is just a demo for it. So as the user logging into the Explorator, it can first see an overview about the feeder system. And this is in high level, the high voltage level. And this is the transmission level, we call it. And as you can see some transmission line from the feeder route towards 3 different feeders. A feeder is like a grid system for a communities. And as user zoom in to a certain level, they should be able to see a detailed information about the corresponding feeders. Let's zoom in again. So here you can see there's different nodes at different location, and each node has different elements attached to them. You can filter them based on their type. And you can also select one of them to see the detailed information about the elements. Now, what's important here is that we also have a table view. And when the user switch to the table view, the corresponding data will be highlighted. Say we select and load here, and then you see the load is highlighted. And you can also select the other elements and go back to the width, and the corresponding load is highlighted as well. User can also switch to a force layout to see more clearly about the graph structure and the relationship between the root node and the elements. And again, when you select something here and you switch to the table view, the corresponding data is highlighted. So the interaction is sync. Another important point is that when for the front end, the data are fetched dynamically, which means that only the data within the viewport will be sent to the front end. So if I drag it to the right into a new feeders, you can see the new data was updated and the old data is erased. By doing so, I'm able to achieve a better performance because only a limited amount of data within the viewport will be sent to the front end. So yeah, so this demo is on my Amazon server, and you can try it by yourself. Now let me introduce a little bit about the background of it. So this visualization project is one part of my current companies, and we are a startup originating from Georgia Tech. We get 3 million funding from the Department of Energy in December of 2015. And it's a huge project. We have backend and also front end. I was previously working on my backend developed in Django and SQL, but this video is about the front end. As you can see, this is the basic structure of our feeders, and this is the current result. And for these projects, it's also one part of my HCL research, and we start from the user, like what's the purpose of the user. And basically, we want to present an interface for user to see clearly the structure of a grid and then carry out CRUD manipulation of it. The detail requirement is that we want to show the grid system in 2 views, the map width and table view. And then they can do the selection and filtering in each view. What's important is that the interaction of the 2 modes should be sync. And that's why I select React, because I think React can help me to make the UI hierarchy more clearly and maintain a uniform state. So as a summary, this is the 3 major challenges for the projects. The first one is to use React to maintain a uniform state of the UI and to abstract the data layer from the UI layer. To my understanding, I want to do it that the backend does not need to know about the logic of the front end. It just needs to send a JSON object to the front end, and then the front end React app can decide what kind of format we want to present by its own logic. The second challenge is to let these 3 work with React. And the last one is to map it to a Google Map and dynamic fetch the data. So here is some details about these 3 points. For syncing in React, so I divide the UI into different elements, and then I start to construct their hierarchy and then set up their states and properties, props. And The second part is more interesting, is how to let D3 work with React. So as we know that D3 has its own update pattern and React has its own life cycle. And there are a lot of ways to integrate them together, but I borrowed the idea from Nicholas Harry. The basic idea is for Google Map, I divide the whole elements into three parts. We have a React part, a D3 part, and the Google Map part. The React part will only in charge of the React lifecycle. It will call the function from the D3 part, which will in charge of the D3 update pattern. And then the Google Map part the overlay part will in charge of the join function. The join function is to position the element into the right position. So React in charge of its own React lifecycle, D3 in charge of the general update pattern, which is like entering the data, existing, enter, update, exist. So it's a data binding, and also highlight the select and filtering elements. And the last one, the overlay, will in charge of joining them. Now the join function is just position the elements into the right position. And the same work for the force layout as well. So we also have a pass data function here. Now this function is to pass the JSON object sent from the backend into an appropriate format for D3 to update the data, to do the data binding. So originally it's a JSON object, and then we pass them into nodes and links for D3 to update them. For the dynamic fetching, the basic idea is to cut the map into different zones based on the boundary, and we detect the boundary of the viewport when the user zoom in and zoom out. And then in the backend I have a hash map to match them into different areas, and then I decide what kind of data I need to send to the front end. Yeah, that's the basic idea of it. Thank you.